let's continue. Zglad newspaper is reporting that, well, Russian president, if you are interested, dear friends, how Russian army is doing, then yesterday, during one of the meetings, Russian president highlighted that about 50,000 citizens of the Russian Federation on monthly basis are joining armed forces, 50 to 60,000, more than 1,000 every single day, obviously about 1,500 every single day. And this is happening while on Kyiv controlled territory. We all know how people being basically kidnapped on the streets, and in many cases from their own homes, by the way, to be then being forcefully mobilized and thrown into trenches. So this is a statement from Russian president. So Russian President Vladimir Putin has reported a significant increase in the number of volunteers joining the military, emphasizing their independent decision to serve. Putin noted that at least 50,000 volunteers came to service in the Russian army every month. At the meeting with the leadership of Delaware SER, the head of the state emphasized that these people make their decision voluntarily, including employees of their enterprises that are part of the organization. Putin compared this situation to their mobilization in Ukraine, noting that the Kiev authorities managed to forcibly recruit about 30,000 people a month into the armed forces. Their president added, they are now catching people, and here, I mean, there in Ukraine are catching people on the streets, which is true, by the way. They're forcefully mobilizing them. And here in Russia, 50-60,000 a month came themselves, including from your work collectives, said Russian president. And well, numbers, talk volume, isn't it, in this particular case? We have volunteers, tens of thousands of volunteers that are joining army, and in Ukraine, tens of thousands of people being basically dragged from the streets, from their families, from their workplaces, directly into trenches, by the way. In many cases, these forcibly mobilized people don't even have 2 weeks training. Just a day or two somewhere, and that's it. They've been thrown into trenches. That's it. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces lost about more than 1,300 actually servicemen in a special military operation in previous 24 hours. This was reported yesterday, by the way. So this data is for previous 24 hour, and well, every single day these numbers are approximately like that. Sometimes numbers are much higher, 2,000, 2,500, but in this particular case, Kyiv regime lost more than 1,300 military personnel, killed and wounded, by the way. This is not just killed, but this is killed and wounded. And this is just daily stuff on the battlefield. Kyiv regime's losses are just tremendous. And if you were interested, by the way, and I know some members of our community at least were interested in this topic for sure, because I was seeing their questions about General Armageddon. Yesterday's Zglad newspaper reported about Surovikin and Surovikin's whereabouts. And let's read this news. In the footage published by their embassy, Russian embassy in Algeria, by the way, Army General Surovikin took part in ceremony to lay the flowers to grave of Soviet soldier in Algeria. Photos from the ceremony dedicated to Victory Day were published on the Telegram channel of the Russian embassy in Algeria. Kommersant newspaper writes about it. In the picture, the former commander of the joint group of forces in the zone of special military operation, General of Army General Sergei Surovikin, is captured in a company of Ambassador Alexei Solomatin, military attaché Vladimir Tsukhanov, and the employees of the diplomatic mission as they go to lay flowers at the grave of Soviet soldier Ostapchenko. Diplomatic mission's statement did not mention Surovikin directly, but was identified by his position as a head of group of Russian military specialists in Algeria. So official position of Russian General Surovikin, world famous general, I will say, is head of group of Russian military specialists in Algeria, and I think he might be involved in Russian support to a number of other countries in Africa also, where Russian militaries are presented. But his official title seems like is that he's the head of group of Russian military specialists in Algeria. And I remind you, dear friends, that Algeria most likely will be first country which will buy Russian 5th gen Su-57 fighter jets.